Good morning, 7th grade. Welcome to week 10. Today is May 26th. It is Tuesday. I hope that you all enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. I hope that you guys got outside. I know the weather wasn't great, but I hope that you still found some time to get outside in the fresh air and enjoy the somewhat nice weather we had this weekend. So we are going to be moving into our next topic. We're going to be looking at some of the 8th grade geometry standards that we want to introduce to you now so that you can go into next year already having this understanding. We should be doing angles is what we're going to be focusing on. We should be doing angles and then maybe a little bit of volume. And then that's it. We're wrapping up the school year. So I'm going to show you where to locate what you are responsible for today. So we'll click on the classwork tab. You'll see there's an agenda for this week if you want to check that out for what we will be doing for the entire week. It is there. We'll go down to week 10, day 1. Now on the lesson, there are a few things I just want to explain what they are. So first thing is here, this is the support poster. So we're going to be focusing on the angles that are formed when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal. So this poster, if it loads, hopefully it will, this poster gives you a very nice visual model of that and also reminds you of the vocabulary words that we are going to be looking at today. So let me try that one more time and see if it works. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay, so keep this available. I think that it's a really helpful poster to have because it reminds you of each of the words we're going to be looking at today and gives you an example on the right side. It also gives you what they equal. So I think that this is super helpful. I would definitely keep that handy. These three down here are links that walk you through the vocabulary that we're going to be exploring today as well. So there are a few here. Pick the one that you like best if you need for additional support. But this is the lesson right here. So you click on it. I'm going to use the bigger version just because I feel like it's easier for you guys to see on my video. All right. So we have our warm-up. And the warm-up says, what is the measure of angle X? Explain how you know. What is the measure of angle Y? Explain how you know. Okay, so at this point, you guys should know that angle X would be equal to 68 because it is vertical to the angle that measures 68. Vertical is always when they're opposite each other. Okay, they don't share a common side, they're opposite. And Y would be equal to 112 because Y is vertical to the angle that measures 112. Okay, so we reviewed that last week, so that should be pretty familiar to you guys. Okay, so here are some of the vocabulary words we're going to be looking at today. We have the word transversal, which is a line that intersects two parallel lines. We have the word interior angles, formed on the inside of the two lines cut by a transversal. Then you have its opposite, exterior angles, formed on the outside. I always think of when I hear the word exterior, kind of like exit, right? And when you exit someplace, you're leaving, you're going outside. So that's what just helps me kind of remember that. And obviously interior has the word in it, so that's a little easier to remember. Then we're going to look at alternate interior angles and alternate exterior angles. When you hear the word alternate, I want you to think opposite. So they're going to be angles that are on the inside or interior, opposite sides of the transversal, not adjacent. That means not next to, so not adjacent, not next to each other, and they are congruent in measure. If you guys remember, congruent means equal. So alternate interior angles are going to be equal to each other. Alternate exterior angles are the same thing, just the ones on the outside. Still opposite sides of the transversal, still non-adjacent, and also equal to each other. Corresponding angles are going to be one angle inside, one angle outside. They're on the same side of the transversal, and they are also congruent, so they are also equal. So this is a lot of vocabulary to just kind of take in. It's much easier to visualize it. So on the next slide, I gave you a diagram, and I take you through a few different examples. So the first thing that we look at is you have two parallel lines in this diagram, right? They're right here. Parallel lines mean they never intersect. Sometimes you might see this on the parallel lines to indicate that they are parallel. So if you ever see that symbol, just know that it means that those lines are parallel to each other. We can give them names. We'll call this angle line M and line N. So line M and line N are going to be the two parallel lines that are in our picture, and they are going to be cut by this line, which we'll label T for transversal. So the transversal is the line that cuts the parallel lines and makes these angles that are numbered for you here. Okay, so a few different relationships that you should be able to notice. In this diagram, we have supplementary angles. That should be a word you're already familiar with. Supplementary means that they form a straight line, and when they are put together, they equal to 180 degrees. So an example of supplementary angles could be angle 6 and angle 5, right? Because when I put these two together, we get a straight angle, 180 degrees. So we can say supplementary angles could be angle 5 and angle 6. And why? Because they add to 180. Now, in this diagram, there's a whole bunch more. We can also say, what about angle 2 and 3, right? When they're put together, they make a straight line, so they would also be supplementary. And there are so many more in this diagram. We could be here for a while if we named all of them. Okay, so most of the time in this diagram, when your angles are next to each other, they're going to be supplementary because they're going to form that straight line. Okay, the next vocabulary word that we go over in here are vertical angles. So vertical angles, again, you guys should already know because we just took our evidence on that. Vertical angles are going to be when the angles are opposite each other, when they are across from one another. So they share a common vertex, which means a midpoint. They share a common vertex, but they are opposite one another. So an example of vertical angles in this diagram could be angle 1, right? And angle 1 is going to be vertical to angle 3. Okay, so an example of vertical could be angle 1 and angle 3. And they are also equal in measure or congruent. Okay, there's more vertical angles as well. You can say angle 8 is vertical to angle 6 because they're opposite each other. Okay, so 6 and 8. And there's a few more. Okay, so that's the second word to go over. The next set of angles that I want to go over with you are alternate exterior. So let me write that down so we see it. I'm going to space alternate, I'm going to abbreviate exterior. Okay, so alternate exterior are when we look at the outside of the lines. So inside is here. This would be the inside of the lines. So our interior angles are 4, 3, 5, and 6. This is inside. Outside are the ones up here. So this is outside and this is outside. Okay, so our exterior angles in this diagram are going to be 1 and 2 and 7 and 8. Now, to be alternate exterior, let's say we pick 1. The angle that's alternate exterior means it's on the opposite side and it's not next to. So the only other one it could be is 7. See how they're opposite each other, right? And they're also on the outside. So alternate exterior could be angle 1 and angle 7. And the other set of alternate exterior angles would be if I pick 2, then the angle that is alternate exterior to angle 2 would be 8. It's opposite, it's outside, and they're not next to each other. So then angle 2 and angle 8 are also alternate exterior. The other thing to know about alternate exterior angles are that they are congruent. So if I told you that angle 8 was 60 degrees, then angle 2 would also be 60 degrees. So So that's something we're going to explore a little more tomorrow, but it's good to know that they are equal in measure now as well. Okay, so those are alternate exterior angles. 1 and 7 and 8 and 2. Okay, so now that we saw alternate exterior, now let's look at alternate interior. Alternate interior is the same thing. It's just that now you're looking at the angles inside that are opposite and non-adjacent. So alternate interior. If I look at my diagram, the angles that are inside are 4, 3, 6, and 5. So if I pick, let's say 5, right? The alternate exterior angle to 5 would be on the opposite side and not next to. So it's going to be 3. So 3 and 5 are alternate interior. I'll write that down. Oops, I missed the angle sign. Okay, and then the other pair of alternate interior is if we selected 4, then the angle that is alternate interior to 4 would be on the opposite side and not next to it. So its alternate interior would be 6. Okay, so 4 and 6 are alternate interior, and 5 and 3 are alternate interior. Okay, those are also equal in measure. So if I told you that angle 4 is 40 degrees, then angle 6 is also 40 degrees. Okay, and then the last vocabulary word to understand and to review, these types of angles are formed when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, and they are called corresponding angles. I find that most students find these the most confusing, so please pay attention as I explain them. Okay, so corresponding angles are equal in measure. One angle is going to be inside, one angle is going to be outside, and they are on the same side of the transversal. So I'm just going to pick one. So let's say we picked angle 1. When I'm finding corresponding angles, I always think of like an escalator, right? So I'm taking angle 1 and I'm going to slide down the transversal until I am sitting in the same exact angle where angle 1 would be. So I'm taking angle 1 and I'm sliding down. Which angle would angle 1 sit right on top of if it slid down the transversal? It would sit right on top of angle 5. And now it's also following our definition that we just reviewed. We have one angle inside, one angle outside. They're on the same side of the transversal, right? And they are going to be non-adjacent, which means not next to each other, and also equal in measure. So if I look at angle 1, I'm noticing it's an obtuse angle. Obtuse means over 90, less than 180. It couldn't be 4 because 4 is an acute angle. I can tell it's less than 90 degrees. And same as 8, right? So it would have to be 5. 1 and 5 are corresponding. It's like identical twins, okay? So I'm going to put that down as one example. Angle 1 and angle 5 would be corresponding. Let's pick a different one. Let's say I picked 3. Okay, if I asked you which angle is corresponding to 3, again, right, we're going to look on the same side of the transversal, so that eliminates 1, 4, 5, and 8. And then we're just going to slide angle 3 down, and where would it sit right on top of? Where would it be its mirror image? And that answer would be angle 7. See how they're the same angle, just slid down? So those are our corresponding angles. One is inside, one is outside. They're non-adjacent, they're equal in measure, and they're on the same side of the transversal. Angle 3 and angle 7. Okay, there's a few more we can identify in this picture, but I'm only going to stick to just a couple of examples to get you guys comfortable with it. The lesson takes you through the same thing as well, modeling where those angles are located. And then the description is in the top right in green, okay? If you keep going through the lesson, there's some more practice, and I give you every possible answer that there could be for each of the different vocabulary that is being reviewed. So you have vertical, right? We already know those. You'll have your alternate exterior. So the colors match up with their pair. So alternate exterior would be 1 and 8, and then the other pair would be 2 and 7. I highlighted them so that you see that they are together. Alternate interior would be 3 and 6, 4 and 5. Okay, they're also equal in measure. Corresponding are the ones that slide. So again, I color coded them to make it a little bit easier for you to see. So 1 is corresponding to 5, 3 corresponding to 7, 2 corresponding to 6, and 4 corresponding to 8. Notice that every time one angle's inside, one angle's outside, they're on the same side of the transversal, they're not next to each other, and they are equal in measure. Okay, so then there's a couple for you to try to say if they are alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding. There are your answers. And then you have your exit ticket. So this exit ticket is really just reviewing the vocabulary word and identifying them in the picture. The only way you are going to be able to do this is by reviewing what I just showed you in the lesson, reviewing the lesson on your own, going through the video support links, and also looking at that poster I showed you before, because it's really just nailing down those vocabulary words and really understanding their meaning. Okay, so if you go to your exit slip, you'll see that you have the picture, and I'm just going to keep asking you, what is the relationship between angle 1 and 2? Angle 1 and 2, they're outside of the parallel lines. They're not alternate interior, they're not alternate interior. They're not vertical because they're not across from each other like 4 is, but they are next to each other. And if they're next to each other, they make this straight line, and whenever angles make a straight line, I know that they are supplementary. So this answer would be supplementary for number 1. And then you just keep going through and see if you could do it. Let's see. Classify the relationship between angle 5 and 4. So let's look at angle 5. It's inside, it's interior. Angle 4 is also interior. They're on opposite sides of the transversal, okay? And they're non-adjacent. So these look like they would be alternate interior to me. So that would be this answer right here. Okay, and you're going to keep answering the questions don't change, they just change which angles they're asking you to look at. So use the vocabulary, use the poster, use this video, whatever is going to help you really understand the vocabulary. That's the focus here, and then we'll move on from this tomorrow. All right, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I hope you guys staying safe, and I miss you.